The fallout from the explosive Harry and Meghan interview continues, with Piers Morgan standing by his criticism of the Duchess of Sussex following his exit from ITV's Good Morning Britain programme. His comments came as the Society of Editors pledged to work towards being part of the solution on diversity in the media, after more than 200 black and ethnic minority journalists signed an open letter rejecting the Society's claim that racism was not a factor in the British press. It has also emerged that Meghan formally complained to ITV about Piers Morgan before he quit.
I think the damage he's done to the British monarchy and to the Queen at a time when Prince Philip is lying in hospital is enormous and frankly contemptible. So if I have to fall on my sword for expressing an honestly held opinion about Meghan Markle and that diatribe of bilge that she came out with in that interview, so be it.
Well, joining me now is Conservative political commentator and senior fellow at the right-wing think tank Policy Exchange, Calvin Robinson. Also with me is Labour MP Holly Lynch, who coordinated an open letter in 2019 from a cross-party group of MPs condemning media coverage of the Duchess. Holly Lynch first. Piers Morgan expressed his view on the programme about Meghan Markle, which will undoubtedly be shared by a lot of people. His co-host Susanna Reid said this morning she and other presenters were always allowed to make their sometimes differing view on the programme. What was wrong with that?
Well, from what I saw, his fellow presenters put an alternative perspective to him. He was very uncomfortable with that, to the extent that he got out and walked out of that studio. If he wants to present that everybody's entitled to their opinion, he's also got to listen to other people's. There are a huge number now of people who are really concerned about what Meghan Markle was subject to and the wider message that sends out to women and to women in public life. And so actually he's got to be accountable for his words and accept that there are other opinions who do not agree with him, and he's got to face up to that as well.
Calvin Robinson, I mean, I've already seen Piers Morgan on national television twice today talking about standing by what he said, talking about being cancelled. No one's been cancelled here, have they? All talk of being cancelled is just clickbait, isn't it?
Well, it depends what you mean by the term cancelled. You know, they asked him to apologise on his show for saying words that he meant, and I don't think he wanted to capitulate to the woke mob in that way. So he doubled down and said, no, I believe in the words that I said. And, you know, all power to his elbow for saying that. That is the power of free speech. Alternative options, alternative opinions should be allowed to be voiced on mainstream media. You know, major polling over the last few weeks has shown that so many people are afraid to speak their minds these days. They're treading on eggshells because they're afraid of this woke mob mentality that do cancel people. And if Piers Morgan has been cancelled off his show, what hope do us normal individuals have of being, you know, sticking around in our normal everyday jobs while having opinions that differ from the approved groupthink mentality? That's what's scary about all this.
Holly Lynch?
You know, she said,
I just come back to the point that Piers Morgan left the studio. He was faced with an alternative opinion to his own and he walked out. And as he understand it, he has taken the decision to not return to Good Morning Britain. I think the point that we made when we sent that letter to Meghan Markle back in 2019 is we called on the press to have the integrity to know when a story is in the public interest and when it is relentlessly tearing down a woman in public life for no good reason at all. We renew that call. We've got to work together on those solutions, but that's the point I would really like to make. I mean,
there is a point that that letter clearly didn't work, arguably. Calvin Robinson, the Society of Editors released a statement in response to Meghan Markle's interview saying that the British press was not racist or bigoted. 250 black and ethnic minority journalists have said today they disagree with that.
Well, the issue I have with all of this is, of course, it's a public interest story. Meghan Markle's been on global television trying to bring down our British institutions. And
no, but the point is about racism, isn't there, within the press?
So it always comes back down to race, though, doesn't it? It's somehow there's this argument that because she is black or mixed race, that she's above reproach. You know, the words that she said had an impact on our society. Therefore, she should be criticised for them. That's fair game. Just because she's black doesn't mean that she cannot be criticised. That is patronising, and that is racist in my eyes.
But the point is, I mean, you are happy to call out racism. I saw you yesterday in an interview with the talk show host Julia Hartley-Brewer acknowledge that complaints made against her were racist. Why do you seem unwilling to accept that the black journalists, the ethnic minority journalists who say that the British press is racist, has been racist in its treatment of Meghan Markle? Why do you dispute that?
That's not what I'm disputing. I'm disputing that this is all about race. This is a much larger issue, and we need to address the untruths that were told in this major interview that was put out there. And I'm sure elements of the press have been racist towards Meghan Markle at times, but that isn't the core of this story, and that does need to be addressed. But the wider issue here is they're trying to use that as cover, and she's trying to use that as cover. She put out some very ambiguous claims, unsubstantiated, about the royal family in that interview, almost painting the whole royal family as racist. And that is inappropriate and wrong.
Holly Lynch, Piers Morgan says today, why shouldn't he be allowed to express an honest opinion? There are many different outlets these days. The problem for you, isn't it, that programmes like this, you know, they're about people being provocative. And it's, how do you even begin to regulate that? You have talked today about perhaps more regulation. That's impossible in a world where opinion matters in journalism and broadcasting now.
Well, it would be very, very difficult to legislate bad taste out of the press, and we accept that and reflect on some of those challenges. All of those women who put their names to that letter back in 2019 take freedom of the press very, very seriously. But it is about finding that balance, as I say, that integrity between when a story is in the public interest and when it is relentlessly hounding a woman in the spotlight out of the public life. So we've got to help the press, I think, to find that balance. And we'll be coming together again as MPs to look at any and all solutions to try and do that. And we're working with everybody on part of that as well.
Calvin Robinson, so sorry I can't come back to you. Holly Lynch, thank you both for joining us.